Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children over the age of 18, welcome back. It's your main man, Tez, as well as Travis, and we are your favorite LOs. And on this edition, we're going to be talking about VA loans, probably one of our favorite loan products to offer just because of who they help. We're going to talk about VA loans, break it down, give you the gist of everything that comes along with a VA loan. And for those that do qualify for it, how it can benefit them. So go ahead, grab that pen and a piece of paper and your favorite beverage, and we'll be back in a second to break down VA loans. See you in a few. All right, folks, welcome back. And as promised, we're going to go ahead and dive into VA loans. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off to my main man, Travis. Travis, in a quick synopsis, because we'll get into the nitty gritty of everything, tell everybody, what is a VA home loan?
A VA home loan is quite simply a loan that's going to be guaranteed by the Veterans Administration. The guaranteeing process simply allows for some of the benefits that we'll discuss. But one of the most important pieces is with that guarantee comes a certain promise that the VA will back that veteran, should something happen in that mortgage transaction. VA loans are available to most of our veterans based upon your discharge status and your service time. Those are sometimes a little bit different depending on whether you're in the reserves or whether you saw active duty during wartime. Definitely something to check with your trusted mortgage advisor. But long and short of it is a VA loan is backed by the Veterans Administration and is a special product made for all of our veterans out there.
Okay. And the other thing I'll add is it's the Veterans Affairs, the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
there we
Hey,
go.
look,
Oh,
hey.
I had one job.
Yeah, your one job,
One
Veteran
job.
Affairs. Yes. So that's the department that guarantees it. And basically that VA guarantee means that the government is going to repay like the lender a portion of the loan. So in case the borrower basically defaults on their payments, right? So that's an assurance that reduces the risk for most lenders. And it makes it possible for them to offer more favorable terms and reduce the requirement for any down payment, which I guess I kind of can transition into that if you want, ladies and gentlemen. So, because with the VA loans of themselves, they are 100% financed, right? So that means the veteran themselves don't have to come out with any money out of pocket when it comes to actually acquiring the home loan. So it's 100% financed. So that means that the veteran themselves basically has to worry about the closing costs for the the actual purchase of the actual home loan. Now there's another portion that the veteran may be required to pay that we'll get to probably a little bit later in the video. And it's called the funding fee. But for the most part, the biggest thing I wanted to touch on is the fact that the VA loan, no down payment. So 100% finance. Like the only other loan that we can talk about that's 100% financed out of the gate is the USDA loans, which I'm teeing that up for another video that we'll probably do down the line. But the benefit of a VA loan for the veteran is 100% finance. I mean, can you think of a better loan than a VA loan when it comes to like the out of pocket, Travis?
No, I mean, obviously zero down. In most cases, I mean, I do have some veterans who will, decide to put money down. Obviously, that's going to be personal preference. Small situations where people run into what's called entitlement issues. We'll talk about that probably as we move through this video. But I think the biggest piece for me has always been the down payment. And there's actually certain caps on closing costs as well. Many veterans don't quite know that piece because it's not publicized quite as much as the zero down. But oftentimes there's limitations on origination. So it really does truly offer the opportunity for, a nice, well-deserved benefit for our veterans out there. Not only the zero down, but the capping on certain closing costs. Um, you're not going to find a product that does more to protect the user, if that makes sense. Tez, now I know you're in North Carolina. I'm in Michigan. North Carolina has probably a little more VA action with the closest to the bases and things like that. Now, when it comes to VA loans, I need you to debunk some of these myths that we have when it
Okay.
comes to VA loans. The first one that I always hear is like this discrimination because someone doesn't have a down payment. And that's what it is. It's discrimination, if we're being honest. Tell me about some of the challenges that you run into, and let's debunk some of these myths for some of our veterans who may be watching this and who may be steered to another product because they are being told that that's best for them.
Well, I mean, I think that well, first and foremost, the VA loan is probably the best product in my opinion. For all those who have served that are watching this, I want to just first off say thank you for your service. We appreciate it. Whatever branch of the military you have served in, we just want to say thank you in that regards. I think the biggest thing that I run into, it's not so much so because the closest military base, if I'm not mistaken, and you forgive me if because I think the name changed, but Fort Bragg, I think is the closest military base that's to me here in Charlotte, but that's further east, where the um a lot of vets that I know use their VA benefits. I'm starting to see more vets use their benefits here. I think the biggest thing down here that I run into is just simply, I'd probably say the one that we always run into is the condo thing, right? Because of the
Mm,
fact that for those who don't know what I'm talking about, so with the VA loans, most of condos in most major cities aren't on the condo approved list, right? And I run into a lot of agents who don't double check to see if a condo is actually on that list before either that condo was being listed for VA financing, right? And that can cause a lot of unwanted stress to the veteran, especially just from the simple sense of if someone gets under contract and they don't know that the condo is not VA approved and they kick the can down the line, and that could possibly cause the vet to lose money in terms of like the due diligence or any earnest money deposit or any appraisal the vet may have done or any inspections that the vet may have done in that regard. So, I mean, that's my biggest thing that I'm seeing that down here in North Carolina. Now, in Michigan, I don't recall too many issues. I mean, maybe you may see it more as far as like the discrimination piece, but I think my issue is just the fact that the a lot of agents don't do their due diligence when it comes to things like condos, right? So, I mean, what are you seeing up in Michigan in regards to any potential discrimination with the vets?
I mean, obviously we're both in extremely competitive markets. I've seen people um, prejudge a VA loan because of the flexibilities in the product that we're going to talk about, right? Because people have noticed that you're able to sometimes get approved with less than excellent credit, right? That you don't have to have a down payment. But I would argue that many times my veteran clients are 800 credit and have the ability to put money down, but their down payment was their service to the country. So it doesn't make them any less qualified. One of the things that we'll run into, I think this is just more misconceptions, but this idea that a VA appraisal is somehow, some way going to devalue a home. Now, absolutely, VA will do a little more um, deep dive on the property itself. There are certain safety hazards that just are not going to fly with VA loans, right? Certain missing handrails. We've all gone through that, and if you're watching this channel, my guess is that you've probably heard rumors of such things. But I would say one of the biggest issues that we run into is this idea and concept that somehow, some way, someone with a VA pre-approval is less qualified than someone with a conventional pre-approval, and that fear of a low appraisal. And my answer to that is always that, like, let's be real, a comp is a comp. Okay. Um, if a home is sold in a neighborhood, you shouldn't really see a VA loan use a comp that a non VA loan would. It's not going to be that different. There's no adjustments built in prior to, to the best of my knowledge, where they're going to knock off $10,000 off of a house price just because this person's trying to use a VA loan. Those are some of the things that we run into, and like I think Tez, you hit on it, man. Like, hopefully our realtor partners are doing their due diligence before they're listing homes. Especially those condos, right? Many times an agent is familiar with what those requirements are. And the thing that I run into quite a bit here is sometimes condos just quite simply haven't kept up on their paperwork to continue to be approved. So great catch on the condo approval. But I think if people get nothing out of this conversation that we have today, it's to not prejudge a VA buyer. Many of my VA buyers are some of the most financially savvy, well established, best buyers you could have. And if you turn your back on that group of people, you're missing out on easily closable loans that might be better than some of your conventional pre-approvals.
100%, 100% agree, man. And thank you for the compliment about the condos, because like I said, that really derails a lot of the, because a lot of vets they do want to be in condos from what I'm seeing. So just making sure that agents out there do that due diligence and things of that nature, have a conversation with a loan officer prior to listing a condo to see if, like, hey, if this something that's on the condo approved list is vital, right? Let's get into home loan eligibility. Like, so when it comes to being eligible for a VA loan, I don't know, would you like me to take that? Because I could go down that rabbit hole if you want.
Oh, can I drop my favorite tidbit of information?
Go ahead, my brother. I'm not gonna stop you.
There is no minimum credit score requirement. Right
Yeah.
there, everybody's heads just exploded.
Yes, the VA does not
However, we
doesn't
must
set.
be
Yes.
credit worthy.
Yes.
Yes.
100%. Yep.
Yes.
So long as it meets the lenders their minimum standards, the VA loan works. When it comes to, like I said, I'll go ahead and read it because it's a laundry list, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll throw it up on the screen just so everybody can read it along as I'm reading it as well. But we got, if you're an active duty member or veteran who meets the length of service requirement, so that's a 90 days of service during wartime or 181 days of service during peacetime, right? You served in the National Guard or Reserve for at least 6 years or served 90 days, with at least 30 of them being consecutive in active duty under Title 32 orders. You're a surviving spouse of a service member who died while on active duty or from a service connected disability, and you have not remarried. Surviving spouses can retain eligibility if they remarried after the age of 57 or after December 16th, 2003. And then spouses of POWs and service members that are MIA are also eligible. As Travis alluded to, they meet the lender's requirements for credit and income. And then lastly, the property that you want to buy meets the safety standards and building codes for your primary residence, right? So that's kind of the eligibility in a nutshell for the VA home loan. Now, the one thing I do want to point out, and it was in that last part, ladies and gentlemen, is for a VA loan, it has to be the primary residence. So we cannot purchase a second home or an investment property with a VA loan. You can only purchase your primary residence with a VA loan, right? So, Travis, talk to because we kind of alluded it to it a little bit earlier. Talk about the property types, right, that are eligible for a VA loan.
Property types. Okay, so we have most certainly weeded out those of you who think you can buy a vacation home. Yes. Yeah. Yep. All right. The VA approved appraiser is going to evaluate the home, going to give you an estimate of the value. And sometimes fixer uppers will not meet that standard. Okay. Like we talked about that. When it comes to, let's call them fixer uppers, oftentimes these fixer uppers are not currently up to code. Okay. Keep in mind that when we talk about up to code, we're not talking about nitpicking things like, I had one person one time, I'll never forget. They said that the cabinets were extremely dated. And I kind of just made this face right here. And that kind of just threw me off because I wasn't really aware that that was possibly something that someone would worry about when accepting a VA offer. So again, we're looking to meet minimum standards, right? This is a property that is going to be someone's primary residence, no vacation homes, no investment homes. And basically, we want to make sure that it's in working order for our veterans. We want to make sure that everything is as it should be for the veterans. Beyond that, there's not a great deal of requirements for the homes. Actually, when we see conflicts, I would say that it's typically going to be a veteran who's a little bit misguided and who's looking for a second home, or that veteran who is looking for a traditional fixer upper. Now, Tez, I know you kind of hit on it here when we were talking. It has to be someone's primary residence.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Now, if I have a primary residence and I'm looking to purchase a new primary residence, how might I be impacted as far as, being able to use my VA loan without having to sell my other house immediately before, get it all taken care of? Like, do I have to live in a hotel for 2 weeks while we wait on closing on my next house?
No, you don't. Because I actually just had that with a client I just recently closed where he has a VA loan. He moved here to Charlotte, right? And what happens is if that property is going to then be the home that you're moving to is going to be your new primary, you can definitely purchase that property so long as you have this thing called bonus entitlement, right? So bonus entitlement. So with every VA loan, ladies and gentlemen, it already comes with entitlement, and that's basically the guarantee fee. Correct me if I'm wrong, Travis. When I get back to you, it's just the fee that the lender is willing to compensate. I mean, excuse me, the VA is willing to compensate the lender should you default, right? So the bonus entitlement is based on how much of your entitlement that you have is left over based on the conforming loan limits, right? So all VA loans, when it comes to like the loan amount, will meet the regular conforming loan limits that we talked about in our conventional loan video, which for a single family residence is 726,200, right? So let's say you had two loans that don't equal that amount. Well, you have some bonus entitlement left over. So long as there's some wiggle room in bonus entitlement, then you can get a second home, or excuse me, a new primary residence. If you're moving to that primary residence and making that new home your primary residence, you are able to purchase that property and then use your remaining entitlement without having to go have a down payment. Because what'll happen is sometimes if you're buying a new primary and it goes over that conforming loan threshold, there may be some down payment requirements. But talking to your loan advisor, so they can calculate that bonus entitlement, will let you know, hey, if you have it, whether a down payment may be required in the future for the next primary home that you're looking to buy. But no, Travis, to answer your question, no, they don't have to live in a hotel or anything like that. And the only thing, I'll double back on something that you said earlier, ladies and gentlemen. So like the property types, right? You can do modular homes, manufactured homes, single units, duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes. It's fun, quiet as kept. You may even be able to do a tiny home or a barn dominium. Definitely a new construction home. So there are different types of homes that are eligible for VA loan home purchase. But to answer Travis's question, yes, you can buy a new primary residence so long as you have that bonus entitlement available to make that purchase, to whereas you still enjoy the benefit of having no down payment. That wrap it up real good.
Yeah, and any of your trusted home loan advisors, if you do already have a a home on a VA benefit, they should be able to calculate fairly easy, how far up in purchase price you may go in order to keep your 0% down payment. And again, those are kind of one offs, but we actually run into them quite a bit. Um, you know, Another piece that I want people to understand is that sometimes the VA is a little bit inflexible with certain people being on the mortgage and the title. Um, so, Tess, could you tell us a little bit about, like when it comes to boyfriends, girlfriends versus spouses, even other relatives who want to join you on title? How does that work when you have a VA loan?
Oh gosh, why am I? And ladies and gentlemen, sometimes I have brain farts as well. I kind of don't know the answer to that question right now because for some reason
Oh,
I'm having a mental lapse right now. When it comes
oh,
to
does this mean
that,
I get to steal it back?
yes, you get to steal it back. I'm gonna throw it right back up to you and
Mm.
steal it back. Go ahead.
So, veterans may appear on title and mortgage with their spouses. Okay. So one of the things that we get a lot, okay, is long time relationships where, like I've been with my significant other for 5 years, and we want to buy a home together. If we are not legally married and our union is not recognized in the state in which we live, we cannot appear on the mortgages together, nor can we be on the title together. That is one that people get tripped up on quite a bit. Now, I can tell you that I do know plenty of people who have taken that risk and who have quit claimed. We'll go over that in another video, but quit claimed, a significant other who may not yet be a spouse onto. Just keep in mind that every lender is a little bit different, and I have seen loans be called due because of those as a violation. Something that's pretty common, especially with surviving spouse situations, is if I want to purchase a home and I'm a surviving spouse and I would like one of my children to appear on the title with me, or on the loan with me. That's something that's restricted. Um, I personally, we don't run into it a ton, but a lot of times there are just slight misconceptions, and sometimes it sounds silly, Tez, but like sometimes people forget that they're not legally married. Like when you get into a VA loan, if we're doing a conventional loan and you and your significant other want to be on that loan, as long as you both qualify, there's no issues. VA loans can sometimes be a little bit tricky as far as who can appear on the mortgage and who can appear on the title with you. So that's an important tidbit. I had what I think is a softball question for you, Tess. So since I stole all of the vibe from that one, why don't you tell me about mortgage insurance on a VA loan?
I'm gonna say, huh? Oh, the reason I say that, ladies
Oh,
and gentlemen, is because there is no mortgage insurance when it comes to a VA loan. So, unlike a conventional mortgage or an FHA mortgage, whereas if you don't have any down payment, they tack on that MIP or PMI, which we talked about in another Terminology Tuesday video. With the VA loans, there are no mortgage insurance whatsoever. So, not only do they get the benefit of no down payment, they also get the benefit of not having an extra $200 tacked on to their actual mortgage payment. So, I mean, that's just one of the pros. And I mean, I'll even go a little bit deeper outside of just the MIP. I mean, the lower rates for our veterans, which is fantastic. We already alluded to the limited closing costs or the regulated closing costs for the veteran. But then also the loan is assumable, right? And for those who don't know what assumability is basically it means that when you're ready to sell your home as a vet, you are um, you have the option of allowing the buyer to take over your existing mortgage, and that can actually be a selling point If your rate is lower than what the current market is right now, so like right now, if a vet was to sell his home based on how you and I know what the market is doing right now, that would be a huge selling point of the loan being assumable, right? So those are actually some of the cons. I mean, I'm glad he's teed that softball question up because it allowed me to go into more. I mean, not cons, excuse me, pros, because he allowed me to talk about the remaining pros, and that's kind of gonna throw me. I'm gonna throw it actually back to you, Travis, and why don't you tell the folks about that thing called the funding fee?
Oh, like legit, like the only real widely accepted con of a VA loan. The funding fees, quite simply, is the ante to play. Okay. For all of the benefits that Tez has outlined and we have outlined through this video, the funding fee is quite simply the ante to play with a VA loan. Now, that's going to be set on a percentage, and that fee can range from 1.25% to 3.3% of the loan, depending on your down payment, whether it's your first VA loan. You are able to pay that up front, it's part of your closing costs, or you are able to roll that into the loan. Now, keep in mind that some of our veterans who are receiving disability benefits are not are not required to pay funding fees. That's why any of your trusted loan advisors are going to ask you if you have what's called a certificate of eligibility, or in the loan lingo that we use, it's going to be called a COE. That COE or certificate of eligibility will outline your entitlement remaining as well as your status when it comes to the funding fee. Okay. Most of our veterans who are receiving disability income of 10% or more are exempt from that funding fee. And that's something that's noted again on your COE. So, many people would say that that funding fee in a lot of ways is the VA kind of just getting back a little bit of what they don't take from you in the form of mortgage insurance. But the funding fee for most of our veterans is just quite simply the ante to play with a VA loan.
Okay, that was a great breakdown, brother. I have nothing to add in that regards, and I guess maybe the last question that I want to touch bases on before we wrap it up. Um, Tell the folks out there, because this will be something that they'll have to know as well that the VA allows the vets to do. Talk to them about when you're refinancing a VA home loan. Like, what does that look like for the veteran in regards to a refinancing of a VA loan?
Many times when you're refinancing a VA home loan, um, you're going to do what is called an interest rate reduction loan. Many times, again, going into the loan lingo, it's going to be called an EARL. All right. Um, those are quite simply the easiest refinances you will ever have in your life. Okay. So obviously, I know that we are in a high water, hopefully high water mark right now, for interest rates. VA interest rate reduction loans allow us to refinance a veteran in sometimes less than like a week. Um, as a loan officer, all we really have to do is prove a benefit and prove that the costs that we are going to acquire to do the transaction, something like title and things of that nature, are going to be washed out significantly enough to make this make sense for the veteran. Some of my veteran clients have taken interest rate reduction loans. I have one veteran who I believe we've done 6 times. Um, we wrote the original loan about 5 or 6 years ago. It was in the sixes. And the last time we worked together, we got him a 30-year fixed loan in the ones. Yes, that's right, the ones. Obviously, there are different types of products for your refinances. Cash outs allow you to go up to more value of the home, unlike a traditional, conventional cash out. That's something that we would love to talk to you about if that's something that's interesting to you right now. Um, However, the most important one that we would always talk about is that flexibility for that Earl. Okay, because Oftentimes, in a rate environment like we're in, we're hoping, fingers crossed, that we're able to refinance most of our clients in the next, let's just say, 18 to 36 months. So making sure that you keep that eligibility for that interest rate reduction loan is a fantastic perk for those VA people. I mean, it says, what's the fastest you ever closed one of those loans?
An Earl? Um,
Yeah.
it had to have had, if I'm not mistaken, I think it had a. Dang, did it have a PIW? I can't remember.
So yeah, with the Earl though, like there's not even going to be an
Oh
appraisal.
yeah, that's right. No, the
So it's like,
Earl will probably close in like 2 to 4 days. I think if I'm it
yeah,
was yeah, I think I did an
I
Earl in
mean,
like 4
so
days.
essentially, like you could knock them out in like, I mean, I've seen them done in like 3 to 7 days on a regular basis. It's crazy. Document needs for something like that is quite simply a copy of your current current mortgage and like an ID. Because obviously the VA part, Veterans Affairs, they just want to make sure that the veterans are taken care of, right? So if there's an opportunity for a veteran to take an interest rate from a 7 to a 6, or a 6 to a 5, or a 6 to a 4, they don't want to get in the way. They just want to make sure that we're putting you in a better product than you're already in. I mean, we're talking about some of these loans where like credit reports aren't even required, right? Because the assumption that the VA makes is if this person's able to keep up with their current mortgage and the new mortgage is going to be so much better, it's going to help them. So why not do it?
Which is something I
That's
wish
like,
all of
I miss those
which
refi days.
yeah, but that's something I wish all lenders would take that kind of common sense approach. Sometimes,
Yeah,
especially back in the day when
yeah.
we first started. Yeah, it was yeah. So but I think that's going to do it for us on this edition, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you found this information to be valuable, please go ahead, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, as well as the bell notification so that way you're always up to date on new content that we produce. But with that being said, I'm Ortez, that's Travis, and we're your favorite LOs. Until next time, folks, see ya.